Welcome back, history lovers, to another episode of Old News, where we revisit the most significant events of every year. Today, we're turning the clock back to 1964. We begin with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. The act was a direct result of years of activism, protests, and pressure on the government, and it effectively ended legal segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination. President Johnson's decision to push the bill forward was courageous, as it came at great political risk, with the South largely opposing desegregation. He famously remarked, "We have lost the South for a generation," acknowledging the political cost of the act. But the fight for racial equality was far from over. In June, the nation was rocked by the brutal murders of 3 civil rights workers during the Freedom Summer Campaign in Mississippi. The men were working to register African American voters when they were arrested by local law enforcement, handed over to members of the KKK, and then killed. Their bodies were discovered after a massive FBI investigation that captured national attention. The murders and the ensuing trial highlighted the extreme violence that civil rights workers faced in the South and fueled public support for stronger federal protections. To cap off the year in civil rights, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. At 35 years old, King became the youngest person to receive the prestigious award, which honored his commitment to nonviolent resistance in the struggle for racial equality. In this election year, President LBJ ran to win his first full term in office after assuming the presidency following the assassination of JFK the year before. His opponent, Republican Senator Barry Goldwater, ran on a platform of staunch conservatism, advocating for limited government, opposition to civil rights legislation, and a more aggressive stance against communism. Johnson, by contrast, ran on his vision of a great society, promising to eliminate poverty and racial injustice. The election ended in a landslide victory for Johnson, who won 61% of the popular vote and carried 44 states. The results signaled strong support for a progressive domestic agenda and commitment to civil rights, but it also marked the beginning of a realignment in American politics, as the South began shifting towards the Republican Party. And in the Cold War was the Gulf of Tonkin incident in August, when 2 U.S. Navy destroyers, the USS Maddox and the USS Turner Joy, were reportedly attacked by North Vietnamese forces. Although the details of the second alleged attack remain unclear and have been heavily debated, the incident prompted President Johnson to seek congressional approval for military action. Congress swiftly passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, granting Johnson broad authority to use military force in Vietnam without an official declaration of war. In sports was the rise of a new heavyweight boxing champion. 22-year-old Cassius Clay shocked the world by defeating Sonny Liston to claim the heavyweight title. Clay's brash personality and his famous proclamation, "I am the greatest," endeared him to some and alienated others, but there was no denying his talent in the ring. He made headlines again by announcing his conversion to Islam and his decision to change his name to Muhammad Ali. In 1965, Ali defended his title in a highly anticipated rematch against Liston. His victory was controversial due to the phantom punch, which many claimed never landed with enough force to knock Liston out. And the Beatles arrived in the US, making their famous appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, and performing hits like "I Want to Hold Your Hand" to an audience of over 73 million viewers. Their arrival signaled the beginning of Beatlemania and revolutionized the music industry. A Hard Day's Night, Both a hit album and a movie starring the Beatles further solidified their status as global superstars. This opened the door for other British bands like the Rolling Stones and the Kinks to make their mark on the American music scene, forever changing the landscape of rock and roll. And in film, My Fair Lady, starring Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison, premiered and was an instant success. The musical adaptation of George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion dominated the box office and went on to win 8 Academy Awards. And Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, directed by Stanley Kubrick, a dark satire about nuclear war, reflected the anxieties of the Cold War era and became one of the most iconic films of the decade. This has been Old News, a year in review. In the words of Winston Churchill, those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Thanks for listening, and stay curious.